This is Pastor Byron from Life Point Church, Lexington, North Carolina. Is suffering inevitable? The Apostle Peter, writing in 1 Peter chapter 3, he said, "For it is better, if God will it so, that you suffer for doing what is right, rather than doing what is wrong." We all have problems. We all have difficulties. We all have trials, believers, unbelievers, regardless of who we are, regardless of our education, our financial resources. Life is sometimes full of difficulty. Regardless of where we're born, we struggle. At times we fall. At times we sin. At times we are trying to do what's right, and then almost without thinking, we make a wrong decision. Other people hurt us. We're wounded. We've been misunderstood. Scripture clearly teaches, and we learn from life as well, suffering, trouble, difficulty is very real. And nowhere in Scripture does the Bible give any indication that a believer should expect otherwise. If we are a believer, we're still going to have difficulty. We live in a culture that's filled with sin. We live in a culture full of turmoil. We have just concluded one of the most difficult years in over a century in America. Suffering, pain is so real. And no one can escape. There are going to be periods of time in our lives when it's just going to be tough. That's what the Apostle Peter is saying when he said, if God will it so, you may suffer for what's doing right rather than what you're doing wrong. There's just going to be periods of time, believer, that are going to be difficult. You can suffer for doing good, suffer for being right. It does happen. Life is not always fair. Look at Job in the Old Testament and all that he endured. And what was he doing that was wrong? Not anything. Actually, he was doing everything right. He was an example of how we should live, how we should behave, the right kind of attitudes. And yet he went through such a dark period in his life, and a period of great suffering. What are we supposed to do when we go through those periods in our lives? One of the things we need to do is discipline ourselves to move closer to God. Another truth that we want to remember when we're going through difficult times, Lord, what lessons do I need to learn? What are you trying to teach me? May I be available. May I be teachable. May I be willing to learn. So if you're going through a period of time in your life right now, you're having great difficulty, Don't waste your time complaining. Don't waste your time grumbling, whining. When life is at the darkest, trust God more. The psalmist said in Psalm 46, he said, "Be still and know that I am God." And sometimes the greatest lesson we can learn is the lesson of being still, knowing that God is God. Father, I pray for those who are walking through turbulent times in their lives right now. I pray for people who are suffering. I pray for healing. Father, I pray for our nation, and I pray for healing.